Hello and welcome to the Broken Road Podcast, official podcast of the Broken Road Project. I'll be your host, Trent Peterson. This will be our first episode, so bear with me. We're going to try to get this going. Purpose of this podcast is going to be to hopefully inspire people to tell their story, be uplifting and educational for those that have experienced trauma themselves or with a loved one, and are trying to navigate that. So we're hoping this will be a roadmap to recovery for everybody. It's also going to be part of my recovery process that is ongoing as a stroke victim myself. But I don't think we should call it stroke victim. Let's go ahead and call it stroke survivor because I'm here. I'm not a victim type person, and I've worked really hard to overcome the deficits that the stroke left me with. And that's what we're going to start with on this first podcast. And probably the next one's coming up. I think we'll go ahead and interview some of my care team, including my family, my wife, for sure. Big part of my recovery, and my son as well. And I want to make sure and give the glory to God. Because without him putting this together, putting the people together that were in my life during this time, I don't see any way I've made it out on the other side. And here today to share this podcast and hopefully help others through my experience. So we'll just start. I'll start on the day it happened. March 24th. 2024. I went to work out just like any day. My wife was able to come work out with me. I went in a little late. She went in a little bit early. And we did something that wasn't really common for us, but we really enjoyed it. Had a great workout and felt good. Really did. Would have had no idea what was coming around the corner within the next couple hours. Went to go take a shower. She was still working out. While I was taking that shower, I realized that I was having a hard time moving my left arm and was in quite a bit of pain all of a sudden. Wasn't really sure what that was coming from, but I was unable to get myself dried off. So I did have to call Amber and ask her for some help. When she came in, she said I was pretty flush. Looked like I was really hot. And said I probably needed to go to the emergency room, but I'm really stubborn. And I told her, no, I'm not going to do that. It's just a cramp. It'll go away. So she helped me get ready. I left and went and started about my day. Went to meet my first customer. About probably 20 minutes into that conversation, the pain came back even worse. Felt like somebody was wrenching down on my arm with a vise. I didn't mention anything to the customer. I just politely said I needed to go and went back to my office where I called Amber again and said, hey, my arm's really hurting. Can you come to the office and help me? And she said, honey, you need to go to the emergency room. I fought her again and waited for her to arrive at the office, which she did, and basically told me there wasn't anything she could do for me. We needed to go. So being stubborn, I said, well, take me to an urgent care type place. Maybe they can do something for me. This is on a Friday. We went to an urgent care facility. They saw the pain that I was in and said, no, we're not going to treat you. You need to go to the emergency room. So off we go to the emergency room. After sitting there for about 20 minutes, they admitted me, brought me in, showed them the arm that it was hurting, my left arm, and they noticed right off the bat that I wasn't getting proper blood flow to my hand, and I started doing some tests to see what was going on. The last test ended up being a CT scan that did my upper chest and my arm as well, and that's when the doctor came back in and said, Trent, I hate to tell you this, but we're about to care flight you to Texas Health downtown. You have a total occlusion in your arm, which means I had blood clots throughout it. Was getting very little blood flow to my hand. Had no idea this was coming. And that there was actually a thrombus blood clot in my heart. And that it was an emergency for them to get me to Texas Health. So, bumpy ride. 30 minutes later, I arrive on the top floor at Texas Health, and they had rolled me into the emergency room. I don't really remember a lot. There was a lot of movement, a lot of people doing their best to get me taken care of as quickly as possible. At this point, I don't realize how serious what's going on is, except for that I am there, and that can't be good. I lose some time after this, and don't really remember much in that ER or what was talked about, except for letting them know that Amber was on her way and that she had my power of attorney and would be able to make any decisions for me if they needed to get going. Fast forward, I don't even remember what time. She's going to have to fill in those gaps when we interview her, but I woke up and was surrounded by loved ones and some friends, and everybody seemed really upset, but I wasn't sure why. But there was definitely a heavy weight in the room I could feel. And all I was really told by Amber is that we needed to keep a good eye on that left arm, that the surgery to remove the clots was tough. It went longer than expected, that the clots had been in there for a while, and they busted quite a few balloons trying to get it done and still weren't able to remove all the clots. So we needed to watch and see if we could get blood flow back to that hand. Later, I found out that the reason why there was such a concern is because the doctor had already told them that I may lose that hand. And they knew that that would be detrimental to me at that point. So, fast forward another, I want to say it was probably 12 hours. That's another detail. Like I said, this time for me this is where it really starts getting wacky. I remember I had a meal, and they had me on quite a bit of pain medicine because of the surgery on my arm, and I just wasn't feeling that great. I was kind of nauseous, and I had asked Amber for a bag because I felt like I was going to vomit. She went and got a bag. I set up, and I leaned over and was holding the bag. And while I was sitting there, I lost feeling in my right foot. And I told her, I said, my right foot's going numb. And she said, I think she said, oh no. I'm not really sure. The next thing I do remember telling her is that, I can't swallow. And she hit the call button, and it becomes chaos again in that room. They came in. I was actually having a ischemic stroke right at that moment. I wasn't aware of it. They ran me down to the CAT scan again, or CT scan, to see what it was, where it was, and what they needed to do, and started administering TPAs, as far as I know, blood clotting medicine, to try to break up the clot that had broke loose and basically kind of shattered around my brainstem area, which is why I lost the feeling and the swallow and what would eventually be my vision, and a lot of other things to go over here. So, trying to gather my thoughts here. I remember them taking me for the CT scan. They banged me around pretty good in there. And then I lose time again. And I wake up with loved ones around me, but at this point I can't really see them. The best way I can describe what I did see was kind of like an old tube TV scrolling over and over again. So I could see a face here and there, but those faces were kind of just a smeared line of that face. And I could hear the voices, knew who was there in the room with me, but I really couldn't make out a face or what the room that I was in looked like, any of that. And at that point, I hadn't tried to move. I was surrounded by loved ones again. This time it was a lot more serious, very quiet, lots of tears being shed. I'd had my stroke. So the next long bit was about to be a big journey for me. I didn't realize how much my life was going to change or what had just happened to me. Bear with me. So I laid there. I didn't tell anybody that I couldn't see really at that point. Nurses were coming in very often asking me my name, did I know where I was, what was the date, who was the president, any questions that they could get a baseline, establishing whether I was going forward or backwards, if the medicine was working. And I would continue to have multiple scans after that to make sure everything was progressing forward. They opted while I was out not to do open heart surgery on me to remove the thrombus in my heart. I have to say that I think that God spoke to my cardiologist and told him, hey, this is a 50-50 deal. I don't know. I don't really know how that went, but I know in his heart he didn't feel like cutting me open at that time was going to be the best bet, and that it wasn't my best chances of survival. And I can't thank him enough for looking past himself and thinking about me, because it did end up working. Lots of prayers were happening at that time, and I think that's what saved me. Really do. And I think God put the right people in place. So I kind of getting stuck on that for a minute. They don't do the open heart surgery. It's got some other doctors that are saying that I probably need to get it. This could be worse. We were confronted with DNRs. I had one in place, but had no idea there were so many levels of DNR. As this podcast goes forward, we will discuss the different types of DNRs, things to be prepared for if something does happen to a loved one, and to understand it's not as simple as you would think. But we were having those discussions, which were hard for Amber specifically. Fortunately, we have a close family, and everybody there was there, including friends, to be supportive of her. And I was conscious enough to be able to tell her my wishes and what I wanted and didn't want while this was going on. So probably almost the very next day, it was probably 24 hours. The first therapist come in, I believe it was my physical therapist, and said, okay, Mr. Peterson, we're going to get up and walk. And I said, okay. I went to set up and with her help, and was falling over. My midline was severely screwed up. And which basically means my center, what I've always learned and knew was right here, was shifted and skewed. But as she got me out, I had a walker. We'll show some videos of that as well whenever Amber is interviewed. That way you can kind of see what that was like for me. But they started moving me and brought in a speech therapist as well, an occupational therapist. So all three were there. I don't remember a whole lot of that time. I do remember that I sure wanted to be able to swallow and eat. They had to come in, put an NG tube in me so that they could feed me and get some nutrients in my body since I wasn't able to swallow. And the nurses were pushing their hardest too to help me along, even the point of praying with us, which I felt like was huge. I'm kind of getting lost in the story, but they were working with me. I got moved several times. It was a little bit irritating still to me at that point because no one had exactly explained to me what this stroke had done to me. They didn't know. They were still trying to figure it out themselves. I didn't realize that at that point. But I felt in the dark. I wasn't sure why I was having to get up, why I was having to move around. I hurt. I was sore. I was tired. And I just wanted to sleep. But I'd come to find out later that was part of the life-saving techniques and therapy that I was going to need immediately after the stroke to start getting the neurons to connect again and start that process of neuroplasty in my brain, getting everything to reconnect, which is kind of like a grown man learning how to walk again, being like a little baby, for like a better way to describe it. To walk, talk, swallow, move your hands, all of that. I was in pretty bad shape. So they moved me a couple times. We were going to have to move out of there and move into another rehab facility. Fortunately, we were approached by Baylor Scott and White to join their facility or to come to them. We checked it out. We had a lot of references. And actually, the lady that came to talk to us knew somebody from our family, which is the beginning of blessings, multiples that happened after that. But she knew somebody that my folks went to church with, had heard about me, didn't realize it was me that she was hearing about until she came into that room and talked to us that day about coming over to Baylor. They moved me into Baylor inpatient rehab facility in Fort Worth. And there I would continue on for another month of inpatient therapy and trying to get some things back. Again, I was super blessed. What a great team that I had there. Such a caring group of people, professionals, and really worked outside of the box to get me back, to stay ahead of me, keep me motivated. There was a lot of hard days there right there at the beginning, and I'm pretty sure I was a hard person to deal with. I was not happy. I'm not used to people bathing me or helping me bathe or standing there while I'm trying to use the restroom. It was really humbling. I was really grouchy, and I had a lot of apologies. A lot of apologies to be said and had in the following weeks to come. I'm only going to mention first names on this. As we hopefully interview some of these people, they can share their full name. But I'm going to leave people out and probably forget names. My main three therapists was Melissa, Nelson, and Kristen. There were other techs, other support groups, and other therapists that were involved in that initial therapy, but those were my main three for speech, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. And they would push me as far as I would let them. And I really do attribute that to the early gains that I made during this process. And I'm very thankful for them. and then in that whole process. So at this point, I'm still unable to swallow. They have removed the NG tube and placed a peg tube in my stomach to feed me that way. And we are getting close to a release date on that and hoping that I'm going to be admitted or accepted into the day neuro program that they had downstairs below us. During that time, I do remember Kristen working really hard. We ended up being really good friends. I feel like I can't thank her enough for being there. It was very hard for me. You think about not being able to eat for 40 days, which is what it ended up being. That's tough. I feel for people that sometimes never get to eat again. I feel like me complaining about some of these things or even telling my story, I almost feel guilty because I know there's others still struggling right now that aren't able to eat. That's why we're doing this. I mean, that is the reason I want to make people aware. I want to help people the way I was helped, and be there at that when they need it. So Kristen was working really hard with me. I go back to that. We laughed a lot. She knew the treats that I liked and was trying her hardest to get me back to swallowing before I moved out of there and moved down to day neuro. She was successful in that, actually. On the last, I want to say it was like that. It was for sure the last week, but the last couple of days, she had somebody come in. They scoped me with a camera and watched my throat move while I was doing a swallow test, and found that I was able to actually swallow some solids, which moved me forward to getting the peg tube removed and being able to eat some real food. So they released me, I want to say it was actually July 4th, from that upstairs. Was able to go out to the lake with my family. I couldn't move far. Everyone helped me out of the truck. I sat in a chair right beside the truck. Didn't eat anything right then. I was still pretty sketchy on being able to swallow things other than stuff that was really soft and pliable. But I was able to feel like a human being again for a minute and enjoy some of the things that I had gotten so used to enjoying. The coming home was a little bit hard. I think I realized at that point, once I was away from all the help, that how handicapped I really was. Getting in and out of the house was a lot harder than I thought it would be. Just navigating my way through the house and around some of the toys and the dogs. All of that was a lot more of a chore than I really expected it to be. Needing to have a bench when I took a shower. Multiple things. Just it's a lot different than you think it is, and people are usually struggling, and you don't even know it. Anyhow, they did accept me to the Day Neuro project, the Day Neuro program downstairs, where I would further my speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. Golly, that team right there, I cannot speak enough about. It is an amazing place to be. I feel very blessed that that's a group that I was chosen to be with. They also pushed and exceeded all boundaries that which I wasn't a very boundary set type person, but they didn't let me either. Jeremy, Heather, Maya, Katie, Alexis, Maddie, Rachel, Derek. Oh, I'm going to forget some. I probably shouldn't even started naming names. I'll remember some more here in a minute. All these people were great for me and pushed me to my limits. I also met a lot of other patients in there that I feel like I'll have a lifetime friendship with, and I'm hoping I'm going to get them in to tell their stories as well. All special people. And that was really an eye-opener for me. I've always been a little bit nervous around handicapped people or people with disabilities, people that were different than me. And I think this was a way for God to tell me that I wasn't necessarily special, and to change the way that I looked at the world in general, because I become more empathetic, if that's the right word. I don't even know. To see people as they are and not judge them for deficits that they couldn't prevent. And even if it was preventable, nobody asked to have a stroke or to have a spinal cord injury or traumatic brain injury. You don't wake up in the morning and go, oh boy, let's go do this. That'd be fun. It's a very hard thing. A lot of emotions run very high in that. And once again, I can't express how special those people are that work with us day to day to help us get better. They truly have a heart for it. I don't think just anybody can do that. I think it takes special people. And I'm very thankful for them. And I'm very proud to call them friends and know them. I'm probably rambling a little bit. But that kind of catches it up to the day neuro part of my journey. That part of the therapy that ended up lasting a couple more months. See, this happened on May 24th. I'm not even sure. Amber's so much better on dates. Hopefully she'll be able to catch us up on some of that on the next podcast. But I was nearing the end of the journey on that, had made quite a few strides. They had gotten me back to where I could walk upright and walk around without a walker, without sticks or a cane. I was able to swallow better, talk clearer, comprehend again. Some things I still am pretty slow on multitasking compared to what I was able to do before. Probably not going back to work anytime soon, if not ever. I don't know. I feel led to do what I'm doing now. I hope that I'm on the right road and that we continue to have blessings that are going to allow me the freedoms to go and help others. It's what I feel drawn to. It's where my heart is, and I feel it's really important to get this message out and to continue this work. So, just leaps and bounds of recovery there. We're going to go over that in a lot more detail as time goes on. I was released or graduated from day neuro. That was a special moment. Hopefully we can share some of that, some pictures from that coming in the future. I came home and I guess you could say the next phase of therapy started. I did get approved to go to outpatient therapy. Had some really good therapists there as well. It was just going to be OT and PT, occupational therapy and physical therapy, with Elizabeth and Casey and Christy. But mostly I worked with Elizabeth and Casey. And they helped me to the point that basically I needed to move on my own and continue whatever rehab that I was going to do on my own at that point. It just didn't make sense to stay there. When I had been in therapy so long, I could do a lot of it myself if I was motivated enough to do so, and I am, and I still continue to do self-therapy to today and probably will for the rest of my life. Just to keep it honed in, plus I like exercising, and all types of therapy or different forms of exercise. But I'm also thankful for them, and those were also special people to me that I hope to have come in and interview as well and learn some things from them, hopefully to help others down the road. So I'm at home. We're moving on with this podcast. It's a 30-minute clip right now. I think I can probably stop for now, and we'll just leave it laying there, and I will catch back up on the next episode after I've gotten some rest. We'll go over that as well coming down the line. I do get tired quick. Thank you for tuning in. I got a lot more to come. I hope you enjoy this. I hope this reaches you where you're at. God bless you all.